Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to get you genuinely informed, mixing in, surprising facts and just enough humor to make it stick. Today, we're diving straight into a story that, honestly, dropped like a bombshell in the public transit world. We're talking about the sudden, pretty unexpected departure of the CEO from one of America's biggest urban transportation systems.
That's right. We're focusing on MARTA, the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority. And look, this isn't just some local bus route we're talking about. MARTA it's the circulatory system for a huge metro area, a major player nationally.
Absolutely. It's the backbone of Atlanta's economy, how people get around, everything.
Exactly. So our mission today is to sort of pull back the curtain on this leadership change. Because the reason the CEO resigned, well, it wasn't the usual story. Not performance, not budget fights in the typical sense. It actually came down to a surprisingly common, but often hidden challenge: the U.S. immigration system.
Right. We're going to connect the dots here, using MARTA's own statements, news reports, even direct government guidance on immigration. It really shows how tangled these worlds can get.
It does.
So, for you listening, maybe you follow urban development, maybe you're interested in public service, or maybe you're just fascinated by how global talent and domestic policy interact. This deep dive, I think, is going to offer some really eye-opening stuff, how these different worlds just collide.
Let's get into it.
All right, so the big news hit on July 17th, 2025. Collie Greenwood, MARTA's general manager and CEO, stepped down. Just like that.
Yeah, it sent shockwaves, really. Greenwood, he's a Canadian citizen and a real transit lifer. 37 years in the business. Started out, believe it or not, as a bus operator.
Wow. From driving the bus to the CEO's office, that tells you something about his understanding of the system, doesn't it?
Definitely. Deep operational knowledge. He joined MARTA back in July 2019, moved up fast, chief of bus operations, then deputy general manager in 2020.
And then got the top job, GM and CEO, in January 2022. But here's where the story takes that really sharp turn.
Right. The core issue, the absolute heart of it, was his U.S. work permit. The Employment Authorization Document, or EAD, it expired June 18th, 2025. Simple as that, legally speaking.
Which meant he just couldn't work as CEO anymore.
Exactly right. He couldn't perform his duties.
But here's the really strange part. Everyone said his green card was imminent, like practically in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
But that delay, that bureaucratic hiccup, meant he was legally stuck. Now, he's still legally in the U.S. He has a valid Canadian visa, so it wasn't like he was deported or anything.
Oh, no, not at all.
Interestingly, Greenwood himself framed it more like an opportunity for early retirement, time with family, that sort of thing.
Right, which is understandable. But MARTA's official statement was a bit more pointed. They said the immigration process impacted his personal and professional progress.
Leaves you wondering, that gap between the personal framing and the official reason. It makes you think, could this happen to almost anyone caught in the system?
It does raise questions.
Yeah.
And to really get why this is such a big deal, you need to understand MARTA's scale. This isn't a small operation. It's easily in the top 10 largest transit agencies in the entire U.S.
Okay.
We're talking, 48 miles of heavy rail, 38 stations, over 113 fixed bus routes.
Huge numbers.
Almost 500,000 rides a day, over 4,200 employees. They even have their own police force, nearly 300 officers.
That's a city within a city, almost.
Yeah.
And its role in Atlanta, connecting the major counties Fulton, Clayton, DeKalb, and that direct link to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, is indispensable.
Absolutely vital. The economic engine, mobility, it's all tied together. And under Greenwood, MARTA did make some real strides. He's often credited with stabilizing the agency's finances, which is huge, and launching big projects, modernization, expansion, new rail cars, electric buses.
Right, that push towards modernization.
Yeah, and he had to steer MARTA through COVID, which was incredibly tough for transit everywhere, and also through the tragic loss of the previous CEO, Jeff Parker.
A very difficult period.
For sure. And he got recognized for it. Atlanta 500, 100 most influential Georgians. MARTA even won an Outstanding Public Transportation System award under his leadership. So he definitely made an impact.
He certainly did. But, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were definitely bumps in the road during his time.
True.
Operational challenges, some struggles delivering on those big expansion promises. And his relationship with Atlanta's mayor, Andre Dickens, was known to be strained.
Yes, particularly over the 5 Point Station project. That was contentious. And there was a city audit, too, raising questions about budget management.
Right. And you had public incidents, too. Remember the escalator breakdown at Vine City after that Beyoncé concert? That wasn't great PR, and people actually got hurt.
No, definitely not. These things, the accolades on one hand, the criticisms about operations and navigating politics on the other,
Yeah.
it paints a picture, doesn't it?
It really does. The immense pressure, the complexity of running a major public transit system. It's never just about the trains and buses.
Yep.
So, okay, that brings us back to the main puzzle here. How does this happen? A respected, experienced CEO, green card supposedly right around the corner, and suddenly his whole career at MARTA just stops because of a paperwork delay. It feels improbable.
It does feel improbable, but what it shines a harsh light on is a much broader systemic problem within U.S. immigration. The massive delays, the backlogs, especially for green cards, they've just gotten worse and worse over the past decade. Slow processing, these rigid caps based on country of origin.
Affecting people from high-demand countries like India, China, Mexico especially, right?
Exactly. The waits can stretch on for, literally over a decade for some people.
The numbers are just staggering. USCIS, that's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, reported something like 11.3 million pending cases overall in early fiscal year 2025, a record high.
It's an enormous backlog. Millions of people just wait.
So what happens legally when your work permit runs out, even if your green card seems close?
Well, generally speaking, for certain types of work visas like H-1B, L-1, O-1, the kind executives often have, USCIS provides what's called a grace period. It's usually a maximum of 60 days.
Set 2 days, okay.
And it starts the day after your employment ends. So the day after Greenwood's EAD expired and he could no longer legally work for MARTA.
But crucially, during that grace period, you can't actually work, can you?
Generally, no. That's the key restriction. It's meant to give you time to sort things out, apply to change your visa status, file for adjustment to permanent residency if you're eligible.
But it's a ticking clock, and there's another catch, right? If you leave the U.S. during that period.
Yes, if you leave the U.S., the grace period typically ends right then and there.
So you're kind of stuck in the country, unable to work, just waiting.
Pretty much. Yeah. And just waiting it out isn't always safe or simple. If for some reason your application to change or adjust status gets denied later, you could start accruing what's called unlawful presence.
Which sounds bad.
It is bad. It can have serious consequences for future travel or immigration to the U.S.
Okay. Are there any other options in that situation?
There is something called a Compelling Circumstances Employment Authorization Document, a CCE aid. But it's very specific, it's temporary, and importantly, it's discretionary, meaning USCIS doesn't have to grant it. And even if you get it, there's a trade-off. Getting a CC aid generally means you're no longer considered to be maintaining your original non-immigrant status, like your H-1B or L-1.
Ah, so it could limit your future options if the green card still doesn't come through, like trying to switch back or extend your old visa.
Exactly. It can make things more complicated down the line. It's really meant for very specific, difficult situations.
So bringing this all back to Collie Greenwood, even with that imminent green card, the moment his EAD expired, he was potentially in this really difficult legal limbo.
Precisely. Unable to work, facing complex choices about how to maintain legal status, possibly jeopardizing future options if things didn't proceed exactly as hoped with the green card.
That pressure, that uncertainty must have been immense. It makes the early retirement framing seem much more plausible as a necessary choice rather than just a personal preference.
It certainly puts it in a different light. It's a stark reminder of how these intricate immigration rules, even for someone at the very top, can have immediate, profound, career-altering impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. So where does this leave MARTA now? There's obviously a big leadership gap.
There is. Rhonda Allen, who is MARTA's Chief Customer Experience Officer, has stepped up as the acting general manager and CEO.
Okay, so there's interim leadership in place.
Yes. And MARTA's board chair, Jennifer Ide, has been, quite frank, saying the search for a permanent replacement will be a challenge. They expect it to take months, and they'll be using a national search firm.
Makes sense. And whoever takes over has a massive job ahead of them.
Right. Huge. Getting ridership back up to pre-pandemic levels is a big one. Continuing all those major capital projects, the Beltline Rail, GA 400 corridor, Clifton corridor, the Clayton County expansion.
Billions of dollars in projects.
Exactly. And potentially, they might have to do this with less federal funding than they hoped for. It's a tough environment.
So they need more than just a transit expert.
Definitely. They need someone who can, bring teams together, connect with the community, navigate the local politics effectively. It's about ensuring mobility, yes, but also driving economic growth for the whole region. A visionary leader, as Chair Ide put it.
This whole situation, it really just underscores how tightly woven global talent movement and essential local services actually are. It's not abstract policy. It's hitting crucial operations.
It really does. And it forces you to ask, how vulnerable are our key public institutions when leadership hinges on navigating these incredibly complex, sometimes unpredictable international immigration processes?
It exposes a kind of fragility we don't often think about.
Yeah, a systemic fragility.
And what does this tell us more broadly about leadership in the public sector, about how seemingly distant policies can have unforeseen direct impacts on day-to-day operations and long-term strategic plans, not just in Atlanta, but anywhere?
It's a case study with wide implications.
So wrapping this up, we've explored how a major U.S. transit agency, MARTA, in Atlanta, experienced a sudden leadership change, not because of performance metrics, but due to the intricate, often challenging realities of U.S. immigration law. It's a story about a dedicated professional's journey ending unexpectedly, but also about the systemic hurdles within the immigration framework itself.
Hurdles that can reach right to the top.
Exactly. And it leaves us with a thought to consider, especially for a city like Atlanta that's preparing for huge international events. Think about the FIFA World Cup coming in 2026, which Atlanta is hosting. How might these kinds of unforeseen immigration processing issues, potentially affecting key people in vital roles, impact a region's ability to pull off major civic goals, to ensure things run smoothly for a global audience? What really stands out to you when you look at this complex web connecting public service, global talent, and national immigration policy? Something to think about.